Hey guys, it's Norm from Tested, and for today's show and tell, I wanted to give you some quick impressions on the new Valve Steam controller. This guy just came out over the weekend, and I've actually been using it for the past week. So before you go out and spend $50 on this controller, I wanted to give you some thoughts and some early testing impressions. This is, of course, Valve Software's solution, their proposed solution for playing games in the living room. Not just your standard console-style games, which you could use any old Xbox or PlayStation controller, but also PC-centric games. Games that previously you really want a keyboard and mouse, and maybe you had like a wireless mouse and some type of lapboard to use on the couch. And this is their solution for that. They announced it 2 years ago. It's gone through several revisions, and it's finally out now. It also pairs with the new Steam Link. This is Valve's streaming set-top box that lets you stream PC games on any desktop or laptop all onto your big screen, and we'll be doing some further testing of this in the future. So the Steam controller, it pairs directly with the Steam Link, or it could pair via a wireless USB connection with a dongle to your PC. It does come with an extender, so you can also use this with a living room PC. And it looks a lot like your standard game controller, but of course there are some key differences. There are these two big touchpads at the top, kind of makes it look like an owl, that replace some of the analog and directional pad controls that you would otherwise have on your Xbox controller, for example. They did end up actually adding one analog stick. You have these small action buttons, your A, B, X, Y, which are a little small actually. And then you have two triggers, two shoulder buttons, and what's unique to this controller, actually some paddle buttons in the back. And the paddle buttons are interesting because the whole back plate pops off, and there are actually these two small buttons in the back next to where the batteries reside, and they get pressed by this back plate. So ergonomically, while it looks like an Xbox One controller, you actually hold it a little different than an Xbox One controller. They weigh both about the same. But on the Xbox One controller, you can see that where your palm grips the controller, it curves down. I really like that. I'm really used to that. On the Steam controller, the palm grip curves up. And I think they designed it that way because they want your thumb to be more engaged, the tips of your thumb, with these haptic touchpads. And so that takes a little getting used to. I'm not quite used to it right now. And so instead of putting your thumbs down here where the analog sticks are, you put them up here and kind of move them around the touchpads. How do the touchpads work? Well, I think these are the same touchpad technologies that you're going to see in the HTC Vive and in Steam VR, and they're haptic. The rumble response is localized to exactly where the tips of your thumb are touching. And they feel great, but in use, it takes a little getting used to. I tested this with some first-person shooters, some third-person action games, and also a point-and-click adventure, a game that you would really play on a desktop with a keyboard and mouse. In a first-person shooter, like Left 4 Dead, I'm terrible at it with this touchpad. While, you could think of it as like a trackpad on a laptop. It's actually more like a trackball, where there's one-to-one precision control. If you slide this distance across the touchpad, it'll move that distance on the screen, but you can also swipe real fast and give it some acceleration to spin around real quickly. And what I found is that I lost the center of the touchpad with my thumb pretty frequently. It drifted. In some previous designs of the Steam controller, you had these concentric circles that gave you a sense of where your thumb was relative to the touchpad. But if I'm looking on the screen and I'm playing for 15 minutes or half an hour, my thumb drifts off to the side, and I want to keep a fairly light touch or my thumb did get fatigued. And so it wasn't that great with shooters. I was always pointing off center when I really wanted to point in the center. With a third-person adventure game, though, I thought this worked really well. You can program these buttons in the new Steam Big Picture mode to have this be analog stick, a mouse, to be basically anything you want, and having the touchpad control a third-person camera, for example, worked really well. In a point-and-click adventure game, a slow pace game, this actually worked really well as well in replicating a point-and-click cursor. And I could actually even type with it a little bit. On Steam's virtual keyboard, you actually use both of these trackpads split in the middle, so you type on the left side of the keyboard with this touchpad and then on the right side with this. It's faster than, I think, moving a mouse around and clicking the keys, but not quite as fast as if you had like a tiny keyboard slapped to the bottom with a gamepad like you did in the old Xbox 360 controllers. So there's definitely a learning curve to this. You can create profiles and share them. Right now there aren't a ton of profiles. Some games, like Valve games, have recommended profiles, but you're going to want to tweak those. And as the population of people who have these Steam controllers increases, we may see better profiles and better design layouts out there. Those best ones will surface to the top. I don't know if developers are going to be making games specifically designed with the Steam gamepad in mind. Depends how mass market this thing ends up being. But just in a week of testing, this doesn't seem like the perfect couch solution yet. The thing that's going to replace completely having the need for a keyboard and mouse on the living room couch. People are still going to want that for fast-paced shooters. It's an interesting concept. It'll work with PC, it'll work with Steam Link, but it is $50. So I'd say save your money now, wait to see how the profiles end up looking, and then check it out then. We'll be doing more tests of the Steam controller on Tested, and we'll be testing, of course, the Steam Link in a future roundup, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Norm, and I'll see you next time. Bye.